Situations. For years, I was the daughter who stayed silent, the one who smiled for the cameras while my heart was breaking behind the scenes. We were marketed as the perfect family, but that perfection was a mask for a system built on control, secrets, and a total lack of boundaries. Today, in 2026, situations, the world is seeing the results of that system's collapse. From my sister Jessa struggling with 6 kids under 10 situations to my sister Jana hiding a secret baby for a month, and the foreclosure signs finally going up on the big house. The walls are falling down. I'm Jill Dillard. Situations, and I'm done paying the price for my father's choices. For the next 70 minutes, I'm taking you inside the reality of our lives today, the true story of my sister's fight for freedom, and what happens when an empire finally runs out of secrets. This isn't the show you watched on TLC. This is the truth we lived. Let's get into it. You growing up as one of the eldest girls, I wasn't just a child. I was a shield. My identity was defined by how many younger siblings I could feed, teach, and protect while the cameras rolled. Situations, we were taught that our own needs were selfish and that a woman's only purpose was to serve the umbrella of authority. I spent decades in that shadow. Situations, never realizing that the pressure I felt in my chest was the weight of a multi-million-dollar brand I was forced to uphold without ever seeing a dime of the profit. Watching my sister Jessa navigate life in 2026 with 6 children under the age of 10 is bittersweet. In our world, situations, having a large family was the only metric of success, but I see the exhaustion in her eyes that the Instagram filters can't hide. Situations. Jessa has always been the loyal one, the sister who stayed closest to the family's original vision, Chins, but with her huge announcement and the constant chaos of 6 little ones, situations. She is living the reality of the doctrine we were raised with, the idea that a mother must always give until she has nothing left for herself. When Jana finally announced the birth of Archie Gerald Wisman on January 23rd, 2026, it felt like a victory for all of us. Jana was the stay-at-home daughter for so long, the one the world thought would never have a life of her own. Seeing her move to Nebraska, marry Steven, situations, and then keep her first month of motherhood a complete secret from the public was a powerful act of rebellion. She reclaimed the one thing we never had: privacy. Archie wasn't born for a TV special. He was born for a family that finally has its own boundaries. There is a strange, heavy silence over Tontatown these days. Situations, seeing the news about the big house and other family properties being seized or sold off in 2026 is a reckoning I think we all knew was coming. My father built that compound as a monument to his control and his debt-free philosophy. Situations, but you can't build a lasting legacy on the exploitation of your children's stories. The bank signs on the property aren't just about a financial failure. Situations, if they represent the end of a brand that finally ran out of people to manipulate. Jinger's journey in Los Angeles has been a lighthouse for me. Situations. When she stood up and said, "I am not going back," she wasn't just talking about a location. She was talking about a mindset. She has stripped away the fear-based theology of the IBLP and replaced it with a life that includes a coffee, fashion, and most importantly, independent thought. Her choice to stop at 3 children is a direct challenge to the quiverful ideology that defined our childhood. Situations. She is proof that you can keep your faith while burning down the system that used it to cage you. I have to speak about Anna. For years, sessions, the world watched her suffer in silence while Josh's choices destroyed her life. But in 2026, we are seeing a version of Anna no one expected. Situations, with her new look and her Golden Grove Pups business, she is generating her own income for the first time. She is selling puppies for $2,000 each and living in a $1 million home away from the main compound. Whether this is a true escape or just a new way to survive, Wei-Shin, seeing her take control of her own finances is a massive shift in the power dynamic of the family. The phrase "keep sweet" was a command to bury our anger. Situations, our questions, and our pain in our house. A girl who expressed a boundary was a girl who was rebellious. I carried that sweetness like a poison for years. It's why it took me so long to ask for the money I was owed, and why it took me even longer to tell my father no. Today, I see my sister starting to drop the mask. Situations, we are learning that anger can be a holy thing when it's used to protect your children from the same cycles that hurt you. The most healing part of 2026 has been our secret sisterhood meetings. Away from the cameras and the patriarch's umbrella, my sisters and I are finally talking, really talking. We are comparing notes on our childhood's situations, sharing the trauma of the scandals, and supporting each other's new lives. Whether it's flying to Nebraska to see Archie or texting Jinger in LA situations, we are building a family that is based on choice, not coercion. We are survivors of the same storm, finally finding land together. My father used money as a leash. Situations. If you were loyal, your bills were paid. If you asked questions, if the faucet was turned off. Derek and I were the first to feel the coldness of being cut off. Situation. But it was the best thing that ever happened to us. It forced us to build a life on our own terms. Now, as the Duggar empire faces bankruptcy and foreclosure situations, I see the irony. The money that was supposed to buy our silence is gone, but our voices are louder than ever. You can't put a price on the freedom to tell the truth. Teach everything I do now, every book I write, every podcast I record is for my 3 boys. Situations, I refuse to let them grow up in a world where their value is tied to a TV show or a family brand, and I want them to see their mother as a woman who stood up for herself. Situations, even when it meant being cast out. When my boys play with their cousin Archie or see their aunt Jinger, situations, they aren't seeing Duggars, they are seeing a new generation of people who are allowed to be whole, complicated, and free. The chain of control stops with us. Situations. The hardest part of waking up was realizing that people who claimed to love us most were also the ones who profited from our silence. Situations. When Derek and I finally hired a lawyer to recover the money I had earned over a decade of filming, it wasn't about the greed, it was about the principle. Situations. We were told we were doing ministry, but we were actually a multi-million-dollar revenue stream for my father's business. Situations. Seeing the financial records and the way the contracts were structured was a heartbreaking audit of my childhood. It confirmed that in the Duggar empire situations, the bottom line was always more important than the well-being of the children. Situation, I see the comments on Jessa's posts, people praising her for having 6 kids under 10 and keeping a perfect home. But knowing the system we were raised in, I know the weight she is carrying. We were taught that a woman's value is her fertility and that exhaustion is just a sign of dying to self. In 2026, situations. Jessa is the one holding the line for the family's old values, but you can see the toll it takes in the moments the camera isn't perfectly angled. Situations, she's doing her best to be the virtuous wife, but I pray she knows that she is allowed to be tired and she is allowed to ask for a life that isn't just constant sacrifice. Jana's move to Nebraska was the plot twist none of us, especially my father, saw coming. She was the anchor of the big house. Situation is the one who kept everything running while everyone else moved on. For her to marry Stephen, and then in early 2026, give birth to baby Archie. Situation is a testament to God's timing. The fact that she kept his birth private for a month shows how much she has learned about protecting what matters. Situations, Archie Gerald Wisman represents a branch of the family tree that is growing in healthy soil, far away from the shadows of Town. Situations, Jinger and I talk often about the deconstruction process. It's not about losing your faith. Situations, it's about stripping away the man-made rules that were dressed up as God's will. Seeing her in Los Angeles, raising her 3 children with grace and freedom is a constant reminder that the IBLP's fear-based teachings were wrong. She is proof that you can wear pants, have a small family, situations, and live a modern life while still being a person of deep, authentic faith. She didn't just move to a different city, she moved to a different reality. Anna's situation is one of the most complex layers of our family story in 2026. While Josh is in Sagaville until 2032, Anna has had to become a provider. Selling English cream golden retrievers for $2,000 each through Golden Grove Pups is her way of building a wall of financial security around her 7 children. Situations. Some people criticize the prices or the business, but I see a woman who realized that the family trust wasn't going to save her. She is living in that 100 million home because she had to find a way to survive the wreckage Josh left behind. The situations, the big house used to be a place of constant noise and people, but today it's a monument to a fallen era. Seeing the foreclosure notices and the way the property is being divided up in 2026 is a physical reflection of the internal fracture of our family. Situations. My father's empire was built on the idea that he was untouchable because he followed the rules Situations. But you can't build a house on secrets and expect the roof not to cave in eventually. The compound isn't a sanctuary anymore. Situations, it's a warning sign of what happens when power is prioritized over people. My relationship with my mother, Michelle, is one of the quietest pains I carry. Situations, she was the one who taught us to keep sweet and to always submit to the men in our lives, no matter the cost. When I chose to stand by Derek and speak the truth, situations. It created a distance that hasn't fully healed. It's hard to have a relationship with someone who is still committed to the system that hurt you. Situations. I see her in the background of Jessa's photo, still playing the role, and it reminds me why I had to leave to make sure my own daughter, if I ever have one, she never feels that same obligation to silence. For the first half of my life, I was just a Duggar. Everything I did was for the family brand. But today, I am Jill Dillard. Reclaiming my identity has meant making choices that my parents didn't approve of, like getting a nose ring, wearing a swimsuit, situations, or putting my kids in public school. These aren't acts of rebellion, they are acts of personhood. I am learning that I can be a good mother, a loving wife, situations, and a faithful Christian without asking for permission from a patriarch. Situations. I think often about my younger sisters, the ones who were still children when the biggest scandals broke. They are growing up in the wreckage of the empire, and I hope they see us, Jinger, Jana, and me as a map to the exit. Situations, I want them to know that there is a world outside of the compound that isn't nearly as scary as they've been told. Situations. I want them to know that their value isn't tied to how many chores they do or how well they can hide their feelings. There is a life waiting for them. Situations, and we will be here to catch them when they are ready. As I look at my life in 2026, I am surrounded by the peace I never thought I'd find. Situations. My boys are growing up in a home where their voices are heard and their boundaries are respected. We are no longer counting the cost of my father's mistakes. Situations. We are counting the blessings of our own choices. To anyone listening who feels trapped by their past or their family's expectations, situations, the walls are thinner than they look. You can walk out, you can find the light. My name is Jill Dillard, and for the first time in my life, I am truly beautifully free. Thank you for walking this road with me.